What's up guys, this is the Guitar Gent and today we're going to start a new series for the channel, which has me extremely excited guys. It's something that I've already mentioned in the past that I did want to start, so if you're familiar with the channel I guess that you saw this coming. It's a series in which we're going to explore and let's say I'm going to pick songs that I already know of course and that I love, and I'm going to try to explain to you why I love them so much, and possibly trying to, pick some little things, some little details that maybe you still haven't heard, or maybe you already know the song like the back of your hand, if that's even an English expression. And you just like to, listen somebody geek over that as well. So guys, the first song, the song that we're going to start the series with, you knew that I had to start with Metallica. Metallica are one of my all-time favorite bands. Again, if you're familiar with the channel, you know that. And specifically the song that we're going to... I don't even know, I don't want to use the word review, but just the song that we're going to listen to together and that we're going to analyze, if you will, in a little bit more details, is Orion from the album Master of Puppets, released in 1986. Now guys, needless to say, this song is a classic. It's extremely loved by Metallica fans, but not only that, it's a masterful composition. And without further ado guys, let's start listening to this together. It's going to be different compared to the reaction videos, of course. I'm going to stop the song. I'm going to illustrate some things on the guitar, possibly on the bass, possibly on the drums. Depends on the song, depends on my abilities with the instruments, depends on my editing skills as well, I guess, for the video. Again, it's going to be an evolving process and we're going to grow as always. Like the first reactions were horrible, I guess, and they got better with time. Same things will happen with this series. Without further ado, again guys, let's start listening to this. It's Orion by Metallica, of course, again from the record Master of Puppets. It comes in, it fades in. It has this very almost cinematic build-up, I've always thought, but it's kind of eerie as well. That bass tone already setting the mood for the whole composition, the whole song. It's just so good. Fantastic drum transition, and we get to the main riff. But there's already a theme here, guys, if you think about it. There is the bass line that comes in for the intro, that introduces a melody. It's like the bass comes first and then the guitar follows. And that's something that we're going to see again going on during the song. I'll make sure to point that out again. But I do want to say, in that intro specifically, again, with this wonderful fade in, and the tone of that bass, of course, Cliff Barton, absolute legend, one of the best bass players ever in rock and metal music, in my opinion. The tone of that bass, oh my god, it's so good. And he comes in and he clocks in so well with that chunky, somewhat catchy even, drum beat that comes in. Very straightforward, like tu-cha, tu-cha, tu-cha. Very direct drum beat, and wonderful drum fill to transition into the verse. Listen to the accents, the way that Lars Ulrich accents on the cymbals, so good. And every time, at the fourth, so every time that they go around the riff, the fourth bar, let's say, he signals basically the transition with some sort of a drum fill, either as we heard on the first time around, accenting on the cymbals, here doing a bit more of a snare fill, but it's just so good and works so well. I do want to touch, of course, upon the guitar riff as well, which is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite riffs when it comes to that specific era of Metallica. Overall, on Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets is a record filled with legendary riffs, but this one, it's just... There is something about it. It's just so good. And again, it kind of follows the chord progression that's been established at the end of the intro by the bass that comes in with the fade in. It's so good. Transition fantastic. Again, listen to that bass on the background. Oh my god. And I love the chunky guitar. Quadruplets, I guess that's the English word. And again, something that we said for the intro, guys, the bass. Listen to the bass, what the bass is playing right now, because it's anticipating what the guitars are going to play in the next section when they're going to transition out. So what the bass was playing, now the guitars come in and they play that. And here there is such an interesting, it's such a confusing... It's really amazing the way that they work together here. Of course, the bass and the guitars basically doubling each other, but the way that they work with the drums, it's so interesting. The way that Lars uses his accents, because he keeps on switching. He keeps on switching between the up tempo and the down tempo. It's so confusing. Like if you sit down and you try to play this on a guitar, the first time, or like when you listen to that, it kind of sounds pretty much straightforward. Like it sounds not too hard, especially coming from Metallica. Again, as I said, Master of Puppets record filled with so many complex riffs, complex tempos. It's really a masterclass of... Let's say that there is a reason why it's considered probably the best record of its genre. It's not my favorite record of the genre, I do want to say that. I do prefer Ride the Lightning more. But there is something so... It's like they took the complexity notch and turned it and dialed it even louder, and then they're going to, of course, explore that even more with Injustice for All, probably going... I mean, I guess we can say that on Injustice for All they go all the way to progressive metal as well. But here it's still that perfect mix, and so tasty between the fairly catchy guitar riffs most of the times. Again, there is that eerie vibe, that eerie feeling, but it's still fairly catchy, both in the drum beat and in the note selection, let's say, and the aggression, so aggressive as well. Whereas in Injustice for All, they do go a bit more on the aggressive, as I said, progressive, harsh songwriting as well. But fantastic transition. We're going to listen to that again when he comes back in with the drums, but it's so confusing. Again, try to pay attention to that and the way that they work. It's not as simple as it seems on a first listen. Fantastic lead. And again, it's nothing too crazy, it's still fairly straightforward, it's pentatonic. It's a pentatonic scale. It's so good. I can't stop this now, guys. Sorry. Again, the accents. And the huge crash, like with the crescendo and everything, and then the drop, and of course then we're going to transition into the very different section of the song. But again, as I was saying, guys, the guitar solo, the guitar lead, for me, considering that it's Metallica, it's basically in that spot between a guitar lead and a guitar solo. It's still extremely melodic, it's not particularly technic. Again, it's all based on the pentatonic scale, which again, it's the scale of the blues, if you think about it. Of course, the blues scales adds certain notes as well, in addition to the ones that you find on a pentatonic, but it's still fairly simple. It's, of course, it's part of, even if you think about Kirk Hammett style, but even James Hetfield style, it's really rooted in that music. It's always rooted somewhere around the pentatonic scales. It's something that's even more clear, let's say after Injustice for All with the Black Album and moving forward, it's even more direct, the solo style, let's say, the guitar solo style, especially with Kirk Hammett. Even if you listen to the last record and Death Magnetic, they both were a bit more of a return to form, let's say. But even on the more thrasher songs, they're always based around the pentatonic. There is always an element there that you find, let's say, that you don't find as much in other bands. Like if you think about Megadeth, if you think about Slayer, other of the big four thrash metal, they do venture more into some technical stuff. They do venture more with some modes and some different scales. Again, the pentatonic is the sound of the rock lead guitar. It's so deeply connected, I think, that sound. But you know what I mean. You get what I mean. It's a more direct approach compared to many other bands in the even in their own genre, in the genre that they of course helped creating. And that helps because I feel, that's a personal opinion, but when a solo is closer to the pentatonic, it's easier to remember. It has a bit more of a sing-along vibe as well, especially in a lead like this. Again, that's why I was calling this a bit more of a guitar lead instead of guitar solo. And that's the reason why it's easier to follow along. Let's say it's very melodic. There is a clear melodic line. Anyway, guys, fantastic section again. And then we transition into something that on a first listen, I still remember this. When I listened this for the first time, I was like, whoa, how did we get to this on a Metallica record? And again, the bass that anticipates the melody. It's so good. Harmonizing guitar solos, guitar leads again, I want to say. But listen to that bass, it's so nice. Such a wonderful line. And I'm so glad that they didn't double that. So it's almost like a live performance in a way. It's something that with recent production and recent, let's say, more modern rock music and metal music, it's gotten lost a little bit, and I see why. But in a section like this, probably if Orion was recorded and written today, you would also have a rhythmic guitar following what the bass is doing, playing over the bass, and in addition to that also the dueling harmonizing guitars. But I'm so glad that they kept it this way, because you can really pick on the bass that it's so full, it's so warm, it's such a beautiful sound. And again, a melody with the lead guitars that you can sing. It's a melody that you remember. Like, I always have this in the back of my mind when I listen to this. It's something that I can sing along. And this is an instrumental. venturing here in a bit more almost neoclassical vibe for the guitar solos. And that's another very important point. The song is oftentimes referred to as the most classical thrash metal that you can possibly have. Like if Beethoven was a thrash metal musician, he might have written something like this. And that's also the genius of Cliff Barton. And then here we're gonna catch a transition, but they just switch it up again. They bring back the distortion. I do want to touch upon what I was saying though, guys, the sing-along element in an instrumental. It's something that I touched upon on some of the reaction videos that I did, so maybe you've already heard me discussing about this. But in my opinion, all the best instrumental rocks, let's say rock songs, rock composition, rock and metal compositions, have a sing-along element to them. And that makes so much sense because it's something that grabs your attention. If you have a 8-minute song, like it's, for example, the case with Orion, you can't have shredding for 8 minutes. I mean, you can have shredding for 8 minutes, and there are many people, including myself, that actually enjoy that. But it's, of course, it's very specific. It's so specific. It's a niche, if you want. Excuse me. It's a niche interest. It's not necessarily so appealing to everybody. If you think about even the average Metallica listener, if you go to a concert and there is a shredding that goes on for 8 minutes, I want to say maybe 50% of the crowd will be extremely engaged. The other 50% will probably go to the toilet to catch the bathroom break before Master of Puppets and Creeping Death come in the set list. You know what I mean? So in my opinion, a great instrumental needs to have multiple sections. Like it needs to feel like a narration, and this is exactly what Orion does. It has many different sections. There is an intro, there is a development, then there is a complete change, and then as we're going to listen, they're going to bring back. So it's all, it all ties back together at the end of the day, which is just fantastic. And here again, they bring back, still with that melodic vibe on the lead guitar, which makes it more memorable. It's so epic. And here, what you might think is a guitar solo, and many people think that this is a guitar solo if they're not aware of Metallica and their history and who Cliff Barton was. But listen to that. What a wonderful bass solo. Fantastic bass solo, the tone on that bass. And that's something that, if you're a Metallica fan, if you were a Metallica fan, you were aware of this because they did chronologically explore. Of course, there was Anesthesia on Kill 'Em All, then they had the Call of Cthulhu on Ride the Lightning, and then we got to Orion as the big instrumental on Master of Puppets. And it was a development. Anesthesia was almost direct, I want to say. Almost straightforward. It was basically a bass solo with a coda, with guitar solos and drums as well. Then the Call of Cthulhu, which was already extremely epic. And then, like, Orion, for me, it's really the highest accomplishment when it comes to instrumentals in metal music, honestly. It's a fantastic song, for all these reasons that we're discussing about, of course. Fantastic bass solo. And then they bring back, there you go, so good. And here again, it's a build-up, everything builds up. Again, they brought back those eerie chords, and then they switch into something different, like completely different, that's more thrash metal, I guess. The tempo is not so high as a standard thrash metal song, but it's more, I want to say, incessant with the drumming, and the guitar solo that gets a little bit more shredded. And then they bring back again this section. As I said at the beginning of the video, guys, listen to the way the drum works, the accents. It gets you out. If you try to follow the rhythm, it gets you out, I can guarantee you that. Unless, of course, you've listened to this so many times. that you know that, basically you've memorized it. But it's so interesting the way that they just work around that. What a song, guys. And to think that this is 8 minutes, more than 8 minutes. I mean, of course, there is a very long intro with the fade in and the fade out as well, which works fantastically well as well for that epic feel, almost a cinematic feel, as I said. This is the song though that, you know, you look at the artwork, you look at the album cover, which is also one of the reasons why I think that makes it so important to listen to music on an analog format. For example, with a vinyl, you can look at the album cover as well and experience the visual with the music. And I think that Orion is the perfect soundtrack for the album cover. If you think about Master of Puppets, the album cover, it has this very, again, it's eerie, but it's epic, it's sad, it's powerful, it's all the things that Orion is, as well as a song, as a composition. And of course there are various aspects that then get let's say that they get discussed deeper musically, of course, and lyrically in other songs on the record. That could be, of course, those could be future episodes in this series. I do love Metallica, and I'm that whole record, it's so good. It's the pinnacle of composition and complexity with a taste for Metallica. Again, it's not my favorite record from Metallica, but it's their most accomplished, I think. It's Metallica at their best, with all their elements combined together. The lyrics, the music, and the development of the music. The lyrics, I do want to say, are great on Master of Puppets. I think, personally, I do love the lyrics that James Hetfield came up with in the 90s as well. Also in those records that are not as loved, like Load and Reload, I think there are some fantastic lyrics as well. But musically, it's the apex of Cliff Burton. Then again, of course, tragically lost, very young. That's one of the things that I always wonder about, guys. What would have Metallica be like if Cliff Burton was still around? Very curious. But you have to say that as long as he has been on this planet, I guess he's been providing fantastic music, growing and growing. And again, I think personally that Orion is the apex. It's the maximum achievement of Cliff Burton and the highest achievement of Metallica when it comes to the instrumental side of things. Again, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you enjoyed this format and listened together with me to this song that I love so much, and I hope that that came through. Let me know, of course, as I said, there are going to be variations to the format of this new series. Let me know if you have any feedback. It's, of course, appreciated. If you have any questions about the song, if you have any recommendations or any specific requests on which other songs by Metallica, but of course by many other artists, we should approach this way and listen to together again. And hopefully I can try again and pinpoint some of those details that make the song stand out to me so much, and hopefully will make you appreciate these songs even more. So guys, thank you again for tuning in. I do really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this format. I will do more for sure. And again, let me know your feedbacks. Thank you so much for spending your time. If you're interested in that, if you want to see more of these reactions, covers, there is a lot coming on this channel. Feel free to subscribe. If you don't feel like it, I'm already extremely appreciative of the time that you spent today with me, listening to music, watching this guy talking and playing his guitar. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon with the next one. Have a wonderful day. Bye.